This is Josiah Plays Tyranny. Alright, we're working our way through the conquest mode. We're at our first choice, and I tell you, so we can assault the main gates or infiltrate the tiers. This is a more spy, manipulative, cunning sort of thing, so obviously this fits my character more than a direct assault on the gates. So we're definitely going infiltrate. And I think this character likes the Scarlet Chorus a lot more than the Disfavored. I think she would feel a lot more of a connection or sympathy for Voices of Nerat versus Graven Ash, because he's just a general, whereas this guy's a spy master, and he's clever and manipulative and all that, so she would kind of gravitate toward him, I think. So, we're going to do this one. We're going to infiltrate the tiers with the Scarlet Chorus. Which, you know, the Voices of Nerat emphasize the rewards of conscription and enslavement over wanton bloodshed. And that kind of goes along with what I said earlier about my character. She has a high value for human life, but she doesn't really care about things like enslavement. She doesn't really think those things are bad. She thinks they're part of the natural order, because she grew up in a sort of, you know, pampered, privileged lifestyle in a world in which slavery was very much a thing. So unlike me, she would think, oh yeah, they're enslaving the people, well that's better than slaughtering them, so I'll go along with that. Tin cans are not particularly mage friendly. Oh yeah, well they do have some mages. The Disfavored do have their own group of mages, but they do like magic a lot less, I think. Anyway, so we're gonna go Scarlet Chorus, infiltrate the tiers. The howling mobs of the Scarlet Chorus found easy pickings among the villages and frontier towns. Rallying an unexperienced and experienced gang under your control, you flooded the unprotected settlements with a deluge of bloodthirsty soldiers, rounding up the innocent for merciless rites of conscription. The young and infirm alike received makeshift weapons, and examples were made of all who challenged your forces. Bolstered with fresh recruits, your army gathered strength for the invasion to come. The other way I think about this for this playthrough, for this character, is she's kind of reluctant about this whole thing. She doesn't really want to be a Fatebinder. She doesn't really want to serve Kairos. She doesn't really want to do these things, but she feels that she must. You know, she's ultimately is a realist and a pragmatist, and she understands that her own life will be forfeit if she doesn't go along with these things and play the game. So she's doing it, but her heart's really not in it. She would rather get out from under the thumb of Kairos and not do these things if that was an actual option. Whereas my characters I'll play in future playthroughs will have totally different outlooks. My next character is going to side with the Disfavored and be very much pro-Kairos, pro-Empire. Fuck them, kill them all. Alright, moving on. Now we get these two choices, which again would have been different if we had chosen the other one. So now our choices are Containing the Fire. The Bastard City's resident fire mages threatened the first leg of the conquest. Kairos' forces put a stop to their unchecked power. Look at how cool this is. Your fiercest opponents in the Bastard City were the mages of the School of Wild Wrath. Too barbaric to use their power responsibly, the unbridled practitioners needed to be stopped. How did you trick the hot-tempered mages into their own undoing? They have street mages like Chris Angel and David. David Blaine's street magic. Oh, yeah, that's some funny shit. How did you trick the hot-tempered mages into their own... I don't like the idea of fucking with fire mages, because fire is rad. You lured the hot-headed mages to an ambush, where a legion of Disfavored waited to spring the trap. The soldiers were hungry for a chance to subdue the arcane branch of Tyr's resistance. Or, you tricked the guild elders into meeting with the Voices of Nerat, Archon of Secrets. The Archon was notorious for his cruel and mysterious interrogation techniques. The mages were never seen again. This seems a lot more her style, tricking them into meeting with Voices of Nerat. But let's check out the other path. Well, before this, she was a diplomat. She was walking around making peace. She was making deals. She was bargaining, and you know, doing very peaceful sorts of things like that. Now she's got to do all this shit involving armies and killing people and stuff, which is not to her taste, you know. She would rather just go back to being a sort of civilian negotiator type person that didn't have to deal with all of this violent stuff. Alright, the inside agent is the other one. You found an ally within the city to prepare the way for the approaching armies. Nice. With the border garrison captured by your disfavored allies, you traveled ahead of Kairos' armies and lurked in the shadows of the bastard city. You decided that converting one of the locals to Kairos' side would help bring the city to its knees. After all, corruption starts from within. Okay, now this is definitely the one for my character. You enlisted a bitter captain of the guard to sell military secrets to the disfavored. Better that Kairos' forces march to their next inevitable victory well informed. Or you came to an arrangement with a well-connected smuggler who knew how to sneak agents of the Scarlet Chorus behind the city walls. The Scarlet Chorus were better operatives than soldiers, and this work required a subtle touch. Alright, this is obviously the one. Well-connected smuggler, this is right up our alley here. Sneaking people behind the walls. Doing spy shit rather than directly military shit. Yep, this is the one. For sure. Yeah, I'm sure that her family probably did have slaves growing up. She may have even personally owned slaves at some point. As an adult, you know. Although I see the characters being very young, and they did say that you're one of the youngest of the Fatebinders, so I see her as being quite young still. Alright, so let's do this one. After accepting his deserved payment, the smuggler uncovered a long-forgotten tunnel that intersected with the sewers of the bastard city. Armed with maps of the subterranean layout, your Scarlet Chorus allies fanned out to occupy various city districts under cover. They spent the ensuing weeks murdering key officials and sabotaging defenses wherever possible, weakening the tier's capital under the very noses of its leaders. Awesome. Alright, now we come to the final choice for the bastard city. Look at that. Look at Tunon. He's so cool. Your tactics of infiltration placed you in the bastard city ahead of the main armies. Your work softened the city defenses for the arrival of Kairos' forces, but you wanted a decisive gesture that would give your allies a meaningful advantage. How did you assist in the fall of the bastard city? Alright, betrayal of the bastard city. I can duel the city marshal. You challenge the commander of the bastard city's defenses to an honorable fight to the death. The disfavored wish to spare soldier lives for the battles ahead and civilian lives for occupation. That's definitely not my style. But if you do that, you get this ability, called Warrior's Respite. Once per encounter, you lose half of your damage for 12 seconds, but you gain back health per second, or every 3 seconds for 12 seconds. Stand your ground in the face of defeat. During this time, you will regenerate health rapidly, but your damage is significantly reduced. That's a pretty cool ability, but I'm not doing that one. I could incite a riot. Spreading the word of Kairos, you converted the poor and disaffected into a hidden army of the Scarlet Chorus. Once the dust settled, the army wished to bolster their troops with these sleeper cells. This seems like a pretty strong one. And you get Searing Palm, which is a magic spell. Burn somebody. Gather heated energy into your hands and release it into a foe. The target ignites in flames, burning over time. If you do this, you also get starting out the Sigil of Fire, which is pretty tempting. Or spread fear through assassination. Keeping to the shadows, you eliminated the leaders of the bastard city one by one, creeping around killing people. You get Concealing Shadows, which makes you extremely hard to hit, almost impossible to hit for 12 seconds. But you have minus 100 accuracy for that time as well. Create a cloud of obscuring shadows and dust. For a short duration, enemies that use physical attacks against you have a significantly increased chance to miss. During this time, your attacks will also be less effective. Tunuk has that Divine Pharaoh vibe? Yeah, exactly, Anonymous. I'm definitely getting that vibe. Definitely. Looks like a Death Tarot card. Yeah. I would love to have a deck of cards with all this art on them from each of these little things. That would be a cool deck of cards. Well, it's not just Gray's Deflection, though. It's plus 200 dodge and 200 parry. That they're not going to hit you. They have to roll against that to hit you. So with 200 dodge and 200 parry, nobody's hitting you with melee or... At best, if they rolled 100, they might graze you, and you've got 100% graze deflection. You could get hit with certain magic spells, but weapons are not touching you for that 12 seconds. Not with 200 dodge and 200 parry. And that's really tempting. I do like the thought of this one. As a person that wants to be the primary healer for my group, coming under attack and being able to activate that and keep myself from getting gunked. What did I just say? I was going to say ganked, and I was also going to say gunched, and I somehow combined them into gunked, which is not really a thing. I'm gunked! I've got gunk on me! Stop gunking me! Basically a paladin bubble. But it's a shadowy paladin bubble. Well, you could still heal, though, because I don't think accuracy means anything when you're healing people. But I feel like the inciting the riot one fits the character better. Plus, I like the idea of having the fire sigil right away. Converting the poor and disaffected seems like a more manipulative diplomat thing to do than just creeping around assassinating people. So I'm gonna incite a riot. We're gonna go with that. Attempts to graze, but is deflected. Graze deflection would suck for cows, wouldn't it? Why can't I eat this grass? It just keeps deflecting my teeth off of it. Alright, so we're gonna go with the fire one. We're gonna incite a riot. It didn't take much to convince the bastard cities downtrodden that Kairos was the superior power. You armed them with weapons and knowledge of a signal you would raise when the time was right. As the armies appeared outside the walls, you ignited the spark that fanned their anger into a full-scale riot. The chaos they spread in Kairos' name weakened the city to such an extent that its inevitable fall was but a formality. Alright, nice. And then I love this. The actual metal thing, like, melts and breaks down. Now I have to choose where I'm going next. And each of these places has their own complete set of, like, you know, a whole bunch of different choices, just like that place did. The bastard city settled into a new state of normalcy, with every tower displaying Kairos' banner. Your name was whispered alongside rumors of a decorated career to come. The armies divided into two fronts and migrated south. Tunan sent word that you were to join the next frontier of Kairos' conquest, either as a judge and overseer of the settlement of Lethian's Crossing, or as a war advisor with the armies advancing into the realm of Apex. So now you can either go to Lethian's Crossing or Apex, which are two different areas. Now I happen to know a couple of things. I happen to know that Apex is the area in which you start the game. The first act of the game takes place within this realm right here. I also happen to know, since I've watched about 8 different videos / streams of people doing the Conquest mode, what kind of choices you face at each one of these places. Now, if I didn't know those things, and I just read this sentence about a judge and overseer or war advisor, I would pick Lethian's Crossing, because I would think it would fit the character more to go be a judge and overseer rather than being a war advisor. But I happen to know that the choices you can make at Apex are better and more fit the kind of character that I want to do. So I'm going to go to Apex, but let's read about these things. Lethian's Crossing, built in the shadow of an old wall's junction in the realm of Haven. Lethian's Crossing is a growing trading settlement. The nearby rivers are rich in iron ore, though the locals lack the technology to smelt and forge the element. In the years following Kairos' conquest of the Tears, the population of Lethian's Crossing swelled with refugees fleeing the destruction of their homelands. The presence of the forge-bound mining the iron, along with their guards, make this makeshift settlement a vital resource for Kairos' armies. I also happen to find Lethian's Crossing really boring. And the choices that you can make there are really boring, too. It's all about, like, oh, we're producing iron. Who gets the iron? What are you going to do with the iron? And that's basically it. Which isn't that exciting. Deposits of iron made the settlement of Lethian's Crossing a strategic war asset. Kairos sent the forge-bound smith mages of exceptional skill to establish a flow of weaponry. Tunon the Adjudicator sent one of his Fatebinders to ensure the enforcement of Kairos' law. The other thing that's interesting about the conquest is all the choices you don't make, like if I don't go to Lethian's Crossing, which I'm not going to, or, you know, all the things you didn't do, and I don't mean when you had a choice between do A or do B, obviously you made that choice, but the choices you didn't make at all is what I mean. The game assumes that some other Fatebinder went there and made a choice, and it has a default choice that it picks for you, for the game, for the ones you didn't do. So if I don't go to Lethian's Crossing, I'm leaving the fate of Lethian's Crossing in the hand of some other Fatebinder, and whatever choices they make will affect how the game actually goes. Because I'm giving up my right to go make choices about that place. What I was gonna do when I first watched this Conquest mode on a stream, I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. When I play this game, I'm gonna go through this, like, 4 times at least, so I can check out the different choices and decide, you know, which way I want to go, which path I want to take, and everything. However, I've since watched it enough times on other people's playthroughs that I've got a pretty good idea of the places I want to go and the choices I want to make, so... Or at least, you know, the paths I want to go, if not the actual choices. Yes, this is setting up the world options before the RPG starts, and it determines what places are destroyed, what places are whole, who's in charge of what places, which characters are alive and dead, which factions have supremacy or are weaker, and how they feel about you, and like titles that you have in game, and things that people will talk to you about, and all kinds of stuff. It's super cool. Super cool. And you'd have to play through it 10 times, like I said, to make all the choices. So anyway, we're going to Apex. The troops of the mountain realm of Apex stood idle in the safety of their valley, biding their time as their neighbors in the bastard tier fell. In the second year of war, a joint force of the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus crossed over the mountains to take control of the tier's central valley. So we're going to Apex. Or 29 TR, year 2 of Kairos' conquest. Apex. The mountain nation of Apex, ruled for generations by the queens of House Vendrian, stood at the heart of the tiers. No army could bypass the landlocked realm without leaving their flank exposed to attack. By the second year of the war, the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus had pushed deep into the tiers. Elements of both armies were dispatched to conquer Apex. Tunon assigned you to accompany them, tasked with bringing Kairos' law to your territory, as well as keeping an eye on both armies. Alright, my first set of 2 choices. I can do... feels more like year 579. The Battle of Edgering Pass. The Archon of Stone's assault was perhaps too successful. That's a cool one. I like the colors. The Disfavored sent their most destructive ally to crush Edgering Fort. Cairn, Archon of Stone. As tall as the hills, Cairn is the Archon of Stone, master of earth and soil, destroyer of mountains and cities. Cairn is the reluctant leader of the Earthshaker Guild, though he is less their teacher and more their object of study. The Earthshakers are the group of mages that are in the Disfavored. The Massive Archon is sworn to Graven Ash and provides arcane support to the Disfavored war effort. So I've noticed sometimes Archons work directly for Tunon or directly for Kairos, and sometimes Archons work for other Icons. Like this Archon works for Graven Ash, and Siren is the Archon of Song. She works for the Voices of Nerat. So there is still a ranking and sort of a hierarchy even amongst the Archons. Took me 150 years in real time. Yeah, I figured that's what you were trying to say, Anonymous. I almost called you Saito. Because you were being obnoxious like Saito. The massive Archon is sworn to Graven Ash and provides arcane support to the disfavored war effort. So, Cairn buried the stronghold under an avalanche triggered from the surrounding mountains. The Scarlet Chorus were promised captured enemies for recruitment, yet none survived the onslaught. The Chorus demanded compensation. See, I don't really care about this very much. Like, wah, is what I would say to them. Oh no, we didn't get captured enemies because you killed them all. Damn. Like, this doesn't grab my sympathy here. You congratulated the disfavored for taking the pass without risking the lives of Kairos' loyal servants. At this stage of the campaign, it was vital to use any advantage that would mitigate ally losses. Or, you upheld the Scarlet Chorus's claim and demanded that the youngest disfavored scouts join the chorus to settle the debt. I don't like either of these very much. Let's see what the other one is. The other one, Denial of Strength. A new school of mages presented problems and opportunities. Alright, this involves mages. It's already more up my alley. Denial of Strength. A school of water mages loyal to the Tearsmen posed a substantial threat. The disfavored wished to annihilate the school, while the Scarlet Chorus insisted on capturing the mages wishing to learn of their craft. There should be a glare silently option for all these events. I refuse to decide. Well, basically taking the quick start is glare silently on all of them. Alright. I can slaughter the mages. You sided with the disfavored. All mages had a chance to surrender before the war, and trying to capture the enemy would lead to needless losses. Obviously, as I've said, my character is against killing. I mean, not completely against it. She's not a pacifist, but she has a respect for the value of life, so she definitely wouldn't make this choice. You sided with the Scarlet Chorus, ordering the Mage Elders taken alive for interrogation. Gaining intel, plus they get to live, is a lot more her speed. So I'll probably do this. Let's take a look at this other one again real quick. Congratulate the disfavored. This one isn't bad. Demand the disfavored give the chorus some soldiers. That one's not bad either. I think we're going to interrogate the mages, though. We're going to interrogate the mages. Though countless lives were lost taking the mages into custody, the Scarlet Chorus praised your name as they dragged the beaten elders of the school to the Voices of Nerat's tent. As a wave of screams and incoherent pleas reached their crescendo, alright, so maybe this wasn't a very nice thing to do, the Scarlet Chorus soldiers outside cheered for their Archon. The disfavored adjourned to their camp in grim silence, claiming the chorus lacked the will and desire to fully wipe out all traces of the enemy school. Yeah, alright, so this was probably kind of horrible. But I think my character would still see this as better and more justifiable than simply killing them. Because we would learn valuable intel and secrets, and she would definitely be all about learning intel and secrets. Alright, here we go with two more choices. A captive captain, or poisoning the well. Poor communication led to the gruesome death of disfavored scouts. People getting poisoned and anything. Hoping to break the siege, the Scarlet Chorus agents poisoned the Apex water supply in secret. Days later, uninformed disfavored scouts died of illness. Outraged by the failure of communication, the disfavored demanded that the Chorus agents be turned over to them for punishment. Alright, so I could side with the disfavored by punishing the saboteurs. You upheld the charges, ordering the Scarlet Chorus agents delivered to the disfavored. Justice would be served, but at the risk of seeding discontent between the two armies. Or I could deny the complaint. Tragedies happen in war, and the act was not targeted with intent at the disfavored. The reality was more honest than the satisfaction the disfavored so wanted. Yeah, I'd probably go with this. Or Captive Captain. Kairos' forces debated over the fate of an enemy captain. I like the colors. When Kairos' forces captured a celebrated enemy hero, the armies bickered over his fate. The disfavored wanted him to set free to convince the peers of Kairos' mercy. The Scarlet Chorus wanted him flayed and staked as an example. See, this is one of those things where if you kill this guy, there's consequences in the game, but if you let him live, he's going to be in the game. You're going to meet this guy in the game if you choose to let him live here. So you can agree with the disfavored plan. I mean, I don't know that for certain, but I'm pretty sure. Sent the enemy captain back with a message. All those who surrendered or cooperated would be treated with deserving respect as subjects of Kairos' peace. Alright, I'm feeling this one. I'm feeling this one a lot. You executed the captain, not going to happen, and had his remains fashioned into a terrifying display. Fear was the Scarlet Chorus's most compelling weapon, and you knew that its impact would resonate across the Apex army. No, obviously I'm not going to do that. So I think sparing the captain, even though so far I've always sided with the chorus, use the captain's body as a grim warning. Even though so far I've always sided with the chorus in these choices, I think I'm going to side with the disfavorite this time because I get to let this guy live, which is what my character would do. So we're going to do that. We're going to let the captain live. Shocked by your clemency, the enemy captain vowed to deliver his message in full, and paid his respects before departing for his encampment. Though typically more uncompromising, the disfavored praised your innovative thinking. The Scarlet Chorus despised what they viewed as resources wasted, only to release a known enemy back into the wild. And now we have the fall of Apex. With the defeat of Apex an inevitability, the armies of Kairos met to discuss how to put an end to this stage of the conquest. Both armies agreed to send an offer of parley. Along with their acceptance, the enemy requested that you appear at the meeting. Word of your fair dealings had apparently spread to their ranks. How did you orchestrate the surrender of the realm of Apex? It was the most metal event, and I blew it with my goody two-shoes nonsense. Hey, I'm thinking long-term. These guys are... I'm all about using people and learning how to use people as resources and get advantages from them later. You let that guy live, and you're going to be able to you know, benefit from that later on. If he's dead, then that's it. It's over, and you get nothing out of that guy ever. Blew it, yeah. Well, I'm willing to forgive your occasional English mistake, considering your English is still better than most people's, and you're not even a first language English speaker. Saito's here. Hey Saito, good to see ya. It's tyranny, yes, you're hearing me, that makes the world go round. To give up your freedoms, you don't really need 'ems, and bow before the crown. That must be a song, but I'm not familiar with it. Alright, how did you orchestrate the surrender of the realm of Apex? I can negotiate surrender, or challenge the queen. Taunting the Queen of Apex into striking you under a banner of truce, you baited the Queen of Apex into a duel and slew her, frightening her vassals into submission. I know that the people that they react to you in the game, they're really mad at you if you did this. I mean, the Vendrian people, obviously, they hate the fact that you killed their queen. This right here is obviously my choice, and this is the whole reason I came to Apex, because this fits my diplomat thing. Through days of mediation, you negotiated the surrender of the valley to Kairos' forces, putting an end to further bloodshed. See, now here I get to be the diplomat. So we're definitely going to negotiate surrender. From Crodman Dune, the Flaming Sword of Fire? Oh, I've heard of that, but I've never seen it. It does have a great name. Yeah, exactly, Scumsave. Keep as many people alive as possible just so that they're in the game and you can interact with them later. If they're dead, you can't. Yeah, I get to be the bringer of peace. Your former enemies were loath to part with their lands, but they were even more reluctant to continue a war they were losing at every turn. The Tearsmen are a stubborn lot, and despite their grim situation, it still took days of discussion and diplomacy to show them the madness of tenacity. On the third day of mediation, the rules of Apex finally submit to your terms of surrender, putting an end to the war in the valley, and freeing up Kairos' forces to march deeper into the Tears. Yay. I can one pass on Regicide, you're killing... I told you what kind of character I was playing in the beginning! I'm a peace-loving, life-respecting diplomat, who also happens to be deceptive, manipulative, weak-willed, and cowardly and lazy. And willing to use others for her own ends. But still, peace-loving, life-respecting, also willing to have slaves. Opposite of me. I am playing the anti... I mean, she's still going to be a monster in some ways, probably. You have to be a monster in this game. Like Day9 joked when he streamed this. This game gives you choices like, shall you slice the baby into quarters or thirds? Like, you know what I'm like? Do you do this horrible thing or this other horrible thing? That's not the slave part. No, that's the opposite of me. In my opinion, one of the most important moral questions is, which is more important, life or liberty? My answer, as Josiah, is liberty. I think liberty is more important than life. This character that I'm playing would answer the opposite way. She would say life is more important than liberty. Apex 429 TR. The land of Apex finally rested in the hands of Kairos' forces. The Scarlet Chorus paused to revel in victory, while the disfavored prepared for the next fight, affording themselves but an evening's rest. Kairos' armies radiated out from the conquered citadel and worked their way across the tiers. The disfavored and Scarlet Chorus aimed to dominate as much territory as possible in the coming year. Your distinguished reputation in Kairos' military left the choice of your next destination yours to make. So now I can go to 3 different places. I can go to Azure. Kairos dispatched the Archon of Stone to subjugate the nation of Azure. Which is... like, Azure is like the breadbasket of the tiers. This is like all kinds of farmlands and stuff. I can go to the Vellum Citadel. Kairos' conquering gaze fell upon the Vellum Citadel, its treasures, its knowledge, its secrets. Well, that sounds extremely up my alley. Treasures, knowledge, and secrets? And books and mage shit? Obviously we're going there, but the other choice is Stalwart. With its easily defended position and rich military tradition, the realm of Stalwart was the most formidable realm in the tiers. Stalwart is like the Sparta of the tiers. We're obviously going to the Vellum Citadel, though. Cut the games. I know, right? It's just a hassle cutting up babies into thirds. I know, because you gotta measure it out. Otherwise, you just cut the baby right in half, and then you cut each half into half. It's super easy. Thirds, though, you get, oh, where exactly do I make the 2 cuts? Yeah. Nice Conan quote there, Anonymous. Oh man, I love Conan. Even though those Schwarzenegger movies were a terrible adaptation of the character and stories of Conan, as written by Robert Howard, and did not capture the spirit or the letter of the stories, in my opinion, at all, I still loved those movies anyway. I love the Conan stories more, though. I think Conan's one of the coolest characters ever. The one from the stories, not the one that's been adapted into all kinds of dumbed down, literally dumbed down, lame versions. Alright, let's go to Vellum Citadel. .430 TR. Year 3 of Kairos' conquest. Here we are at the Vellum Citadel. The Vellum Citadel was a library fortress, the largest archive of the written word in the Tiers. The School of Ink and Quill protected and maintained the archive of ancient lore for centuries, standing apart from the political upheavals of the Younger Realms as an enduring pillar of knowledge and culture. And before this place gets destroyed. We can't have all this knowledge and culture. I don't think I ever saw the Conan the Barbarian cartoon. There was a live-action Conan show they made at some point that had, I don't even know who he was, some guy. And it was so terrible. I watched like one episode and I was like, nope, never again. The Vellum Citadel was an archive and library of massive scale. Its inhabitants were known as the School of Ink and Quill, a circle of mages that, centuries ago, carved out their own mountainous refuge on lands unsettled by the other major realms. Legends said that the Citadel housed a treasure trove of arcane knowledge. The Overlord's spies infiltrated the school and confirmed as much. The time was ripe to send a detachment to the great library fortress and force the scholars to yield to Kairos. Plus, my character probably figures if she goes there, she might be able to, you know, gaffle up some of that knowledge for herself. First two choices. Song of Ensnarement. Siren's song ensnared some stealthy sages. Oh, we almost got perfect alliteration there. Come on, how did you not write it? Siren's song snared some stealthy sages. Why did you have to say ensnared? You ruined what would have been flawless alliteration there. Damn it. Chain of Command, a peaceful surrender turned bloody. I really like Siren. She's, from what I know of the characters in the game so far, she's one of the ones I'm most intrigued by. Because they wrote short stories about a bunch of the characters and put them up on their dev blog. And I've read all the short stories, and there was one about her, and she seemed really interesting. Chain of Command. Let's check that one out. I love these arts, though. Some of these arts, I mean, are so good that I would have them as prints on my walls, seriously. Maybe not this specific one, but, like, lots of the ones that we've seen have been so cool. A detachment of Kairos' army marched on the Vellum Citadel expecting an orderly surrender. As they neared the main gates, a blast of arcane energy struck the commanders dead. Suddenly, the highest-ranking officer alive, Kairos' forces looked to you for the next steps. The call weighed on your mind, as it has an immediate influence on soldier losses. Nita was a phoenix who would hide as an emblem on Conan's shield? That sounds ridiculous. Oh, dude, I remember the live-action Super Mario Bros. Show. It was beyond terrible. Of course, all the shows for kids in that particular era were pretty frickin' terrible. You ordered the expendable Scarlet Chorus to attack, commanding the disorderly mob forward to give the elite disfavored a chance to withdraw. Though a costly maneuver in terms of lives lost, this assured the survival of the most capable and effective soldiers. So basically use the Scarlet Chorus as fucking fodder. Or Siren is a Russian folklore version of Siren. They are a magical bird woman who enchant people with their song. Well, that's exactly what the character is in this. She's not a bird woman, but she magically enchants people with her song. You ordered the disfavored to advance their shield wall, knowing that a handful of Kairos' elite soldiers could hold off the attack until the Scarlet Chorus retreated. The disfavored are kind of like the Unsullied. I mean, they're not slaves. They're professional soldiers who have joined by choice. What they're like is, they're like the Nilfgaardian legions is what they're like. Because they'll only allow people from their own realm, from the Northern Realm, to join the disfavored, and they're super snobby and think they're better than everybody else. The disfavored are pretty much the Nilfgaardian legions. And the Scarlet Chorus is like if somebody went and passed out weapons at Burning Man. The Scarlet Chorus, to me, they most remind me of bandits from Mad Max. They're like, they came out of Mad Max and came to this game. You ordered the disfavored to advance their shield wall, knowing that a handful of Kairos' elite soldiers could hold off the attack until the Scarlet Chorus retreated. You knew the disfavored would despise you for any losses at the Scarlet Chorus' expense, but that was a small price to pay for saving lives. I like folklore. I mean, I don't know that much about folklore, really, but I like it. So, yeah, I could... In other words, who do I want to sacrifice? The disfavored or the Scarlet Chorus? Alright, that's probably not the choice I'm going to take. What's the other... Oh, Song of Ensnarement. Yeah, we're going to do this one. Cut the games. Siren, Archon of Song, used her power to enthrall enemy mages who crept beyond the Citadel walls. After Kairos' forces rounded up the arcane practitioners, the disfavored began executing the new captives before they could share dangerous knowledge. A crime under Kairos' law with the Scarlet Chorus. So, I can muzzle the mages or punish the disfavored. Muzzle the mages. You calm the disfavored with a compromise. The sages' mouths would be bound with iron bridles, preventing them from speaking their forbidden knowledge. Okay, there's no chance I'll do that. You punish the disfavored for executing mages bound to the Scarlet Chorus, ordering that several disfavored soldiers be given to the Archon of Song as their personal bodyguards. Absolutely, this is the one. This is good for several reasons. One, because I generally dislike the disfavored. Two, they executed people, which I dislike. 3, they executed mages, which I dislike even more. 4, we're helping out the Archon of Song, which I'm all about, because she's cool. Kairos sounds like a huge monster, so he sounds like the actual Josiah. That's fucked up, Saito. That's fucked up, Saito. It hurts when you say that. Alright. So we're doing that one. The wisdom of the sages and knowledge of the Vellum Citadel were too important to silence. Have we already read about the Vellum Citadel? Yeah, we have. The disfavored balked at entering the Archon's service, but your ruling left them with no recourse. Archon Siren delighted in having new toys to play with, and promptly enthralled her personal guard. You spotted them in camp days later, following their new mistress with wide-eyed devotion. Yeah, Kairos is well, I've heard them refer to Kairos as she, I mean the developers in their streams, a lot more often than he. But when asked the question, they have always refused to comment on whether Kairos is male or female, or if Kairos even has a gender. For all we know, Kairos isn't even a corporeal being, because we know Kairos has been alive for hundreds and hundreds of years. So Kairos could be some kind of floating energy ball, for all the fuck we know. And they said nobody knows what Kairos looks like except some of the Archons. And they don't seem to be telling. Kairos equals Eliza. Yeah, Kairos is a complicated AI. In-game, they say the phrase Kairos is mother and father. That's what they say about Kairos in the game. So, whatever implications you want to take from that. Alright, now we get 2 more choices. The Spy Master's Agents or Right of Command. Siren composed songs of strength and provoked bloody slaughter. Fist from the heavens! The Archon of Song incited Scarlet Chorus recruits to fight their leaders. Bosses were killed and supplanted left and right. I thought the Scarlet Chorus already did that, though. The disfavored demanded an end to the practice for the good of the conquest. I can put an end to the contests? You agreed with the disfavored arguments. The right of command had its place, but not when Kairos' forces were outnumbered and reinforcements were weeks behind, if not longer. True form of Canadian women is floating energy ball with boobs. Wow. Or I could rule that each Archon had the right to govern their armies according to their nature. The right of command bred chaos, but it also ensured that the strongest rise to lead. I'm pretty inclined to this one. to honor the Rite of Challenge. Not because my character really thinks that the whole Rite of Challenge is a great idea, but one, just because she likes to agree with the chorus over the disfavored, and two, because it's something the Archon of Song did. I think my character's pretty pro Archon of Song. Or, I could do the Spy Master's Agents. A group of enemy mages surrendered to the disfavored, claiming to be spies loyal to the voices of Nerat. No one in the army could verify the claim. The disfavored readied to interrogate the mages, but the Scarlet Chorus protested, demanding that the prisoners be given to their custody. They couldn't risk the voices of Nerat's secrets falling into the wrong hands. Okay, well I already know which side I would take in this one. Cut the games. Leave the mages in disfavored custody. Not gonna happen. Though it meant angering the Scarlet Chorus, the mages were disfavored property. They remained in custody while you reviewed their claims. You ignored the disfavored threats, sharply reminding them that they marched at Kairos' orders and not at their own whims. The mages were released into the custody of the Scarlet Chorus. So I'm definitely going to do this one, or... I mean, in both cases, I'm definitely siding with the chorus. Do I want to give back the mages, or do I want to agree with the Archon of Song? I think we're going to go with this one. We're gonna uphold the right of command. I thought about that, Anonymous, actually. That's one of my theories. Because Tunon is the highest ranked Archon. He's essentially the one that speaks for Kairos the most and seems to have the most authority. Maybe there is no Kairos, or maybe there used to be a Kairos and Kairos has been dead for a long-ass time. And Tunon the Adjudicator is just like, yep, Kairos said to do this. Yep, Kairos said to do that. And really it's just him. That's possible. Or maybe it's a conspiracy among all the Archons to pretend that there's a Kairos, whereas each of them is actually, you know, I don't know. Or maybe Kairos has just been passed on from one to another, like the Dread Pirate Roberts. You know, like, a new person just becomes the new Kairos every so often. Who knows? I think some of these mysteries will be answered in the game, but as of right now, the developers have been super mysterious, super tight-lipped about what Kairos is, who Kairos is, anything about Kairos. It's all a mystery. Anyway, I'm gonna rule here on the Rite of Challenge. Your keen understanding of their ways pleased and surprised the Scarlet Chorus detachment, who thanked you for the ruling. The following evening, 2 gang bosses were murdered in their pallets and replaced by stronger variants, who fought hard to defend their status. Though the camp grew quieter over time, the chorus fought with twice the ferocity under new leadership. Well, I'm glad I could help. You're using bardsmanship to overwrite the song in Saito's head with the live Super Mario Bros. Show theme song. Nice. Alright, now we come to the Edict of Fire. Disgusted by your approbation, that's a good word. Disgusted by your approbation of the Scarlet Chorus, the disfavored forces withdrew from the field of battle. Your small detachment now lacked the manpower to take the Vellum Citadel. Tunon sent word that Kairos' patience had run thin. The Overlord would cast an Edict of Fire on the enemy. So here's the deal, these edicts. Well, let's read about edicts first, and then I'll talk about edicts based on what it says here. Edicts. Basically the nuclear bomb of this world. If only one country had nuclear bombs and nobody else could ever get them. Kairos' most powerful magic is that of the Edict. Honestly, the edicts are the reason Kairos is really in charge of the whole damn world. Commandments cast upon whole regions that can control and destroy man and nature alike. Once cast, an edict can rain fire, wither crops, demoralize cities, usher in endless night, or do whatever it is that Kairos envisioned. No known force, magical or mundane, can stop an edict, though each edict is often worded to include some condition or contingencies that will see its end. Some edicts have been short-lived, delivering days of wanton catastrophe, just as many have lingered for centuries. And, you know, depending on where you go in this third phase of conquest, they all end with an edict. And every edict completely fucking destroys the whole area I mean, like, the whole nation that you are in, the whole region gets completely wrecked by these edicts. And apparently Kairos can just pop off edicts whenever the hell he or she wants. So that to me seems like the main reason that Kairos is in charge of everything. I mean, armies are great, and yes, Kairos has lots of armies, but armies are not enough, I don't think. You know, because you'd always have people fighting back against your armies, but you can't fight back against an edict. Edict just destroys everything. So Overlord's going to cast an Edict of Fire on the enemy. More like Edict, am I right? Yes, more like that. Basically, Kairos found a way to cast spells from scrolls at caster level 50. Yeah, something like that. The parchment arrived in a slender case of engraved iron. Written on it, the words of a spell powerful enough to destroy the Vellum Citadel. You had the choice of when to read the edict. Reading it at sunrise would offer your enemies no warning of the devastation to come. You could also wait until sunset, giving them ample time to flee or make amends. Well, it's obvious which one of these I'm going to do. Yeah, it probably does take a great deal of resources, but yet, from everything we've seen, Kairos is popping off a lot of edicts. I mean, there's 3 that are popped off right here during the conquest, and the game starts with you going in to read off another edict. So, I mean, basically edicts all day, every day. Yeah, maybe it's like Dark Sun. This game gives me a lot of Dark Sun feelings as well, like the Sorcerer Kings. Maybe it's like that kind of magic where, in order to do the big powerful spells, they had to sacrifice shitloads of people. Kairos is blowing his edict load way too early. Alright, edict time. Obviously, I'm going to do the other one, but let's read this. Opting to give the enemy no quarter, you proclaim the Edict of Fire at the first moments of dawn, granting the enemy no warning of the destruction to come. Though the chorus insisted your actions doom their spies, the disfavored applauded your decision. No, of course we're gonna let the mages try to get away and preserve some of their knowledge and stuff. Again, something I can maybe benefit from later versus this does me no fucking good at all. Claiming they still had spies within the Citadel, the Scarlet Chorus urged you to warn the mages of the Overlord's edict. Granting their request, you met with the enemy under a blue flag of peace and warned them of their doom, giving the Chorus spies and the enemy a chance to run. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Because now these mages owe me. They owe me one. You confronted the mages with a warning, and hoped the message was received. The hour before sunset, numerous figures were spotted fleeing the Citadel. As the sun dipped under the horizon, you read the words of the edict. The earth shook, and red-orange light glowed in the foundation of the sprawling Citadel. Bubbling up from under the library, a torrent of lava heaved with explosive force, gushing from windows and between loose bricks, melting winding trenches in the surrounding land. Days later, the flames still raged on, the conflagration continually fed and renewed by the power of the edict. Goodbye, Vellum Citadel. No, but all the books, though! All the books! I'm a book burner. It's too late, Nox. They already had a chance to surrender and they didn't. Once Kairos issues an edict, that's it. You're screwed. You should have surrendered earlier. The armies of Kairos left the devastation of the Vellum Citadel in silence. From that day forward, the Tears came to know the once noble Citadel as the Burning Library. Previously known as the Vellum Citadel, the archive and ancestral home of the Sages is now the site of a volcanic crater. Eruptions of lava began during the conquest of the Tears after Kairos' forces failed to claim the library in the Overlord's name. Kairos cast an Edict of Fire to break the siege and rid the world of the forbidden knowledge stored there. The Citadel has been a smoldering ruin ever since. Are there any choices you can make that end up with you being executed in this conquest section for not following orders? No, there are not, Saito. They already said that you had no choice but to become a Fatebinder, which is the thing that you are that lets you make all these decisions. it was either become a Fatebinder or die. And if you were to ever disobey or try to refuse to do your duty, they would just kill you. There is an edict on the farmlands, though, Nox. If you go to Azure instead of this place, Azure is the place with all the farmlands, and it all gets completely obliterated and turned into, like, crumbling stone or some shit. This was an undisputed loss of resources, knowledge, culture, and life, but a message had been sent. The Overlord will not tolerate defiance. You didn't have long to rest before Tunon called you into service once more. You were one of the last to depart from mountains, and as you journeyed off, you spotted a few campfires in the mountains. They were mere specks, dwarfed by the inferno, the last gasps of survivors, or perhaps looters from Kairos' armies bored and daring enough to pick through the ashes. Fatebinder is like Judge Dredd. You're a wandering arbiter of the law of Kairos. It's a little bit unclear, it's a little bit nebulous exactly what your authority is. I mean, allegedly you speak for Tunon, who is the Archon of Justice, who is the most powerful Archon, and the Archons are like the lieutenants of the Overlord, the generals. They're the you know, the officers, the high-ranking people that run everything in the name of the Overlord. And the most powerful one of them is Tunon the Adjudicator, and you work for him. You're one of his agents. And so you have the right to go around and make all sorts of proclamations and make decisions and you know, like, meddle in stuff in the name of Tunon, but it's unclear exactly how your authority overlaps with the authority of the other Archons. And, you know, I don't think you can give orders to Archons exactly, but you can give orders to the Archons' people. I don't remember what Fate Weavers and Amalur really are. So basically, you're like a judge. You're like a traveling judge, jury, and executioner. The way I'm playing this character with the lowest might and such would basically be like a Judge Judy of Doom. Oh god. You have reached the end of Kairos' conquest. Do you want to continue or erase your progress and start over? I'm so tempted to go back through it multiple times, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to continue, because I made the choices I wanted to make. Oh, yeah, no, it's nothing like a Fate Weaver, then. There's no specific magical power associated with being a Fatebinder. Although you are taught magic as part of the things you're taught when you're trained. But it's not like you have any special magic as a Fatebinder that allows you to do your Fatebinder thing. Mostly you're just invested with a great deal of political authority. Hey, Photon Joker, good to see you. How you been? Judge Judy of Doom? I know, only 2 hours on character creation. Why in such a rush? I know. I'm sorry to rush through it so quickly.
The year is 431. And Kairos' invasion has shattered all major opposition in the tiers. The Younger Realms, the Bastard Tier, the Free Cities. All who defied Kairos lay broken by battle, or bowed in surrender. The two armies of the Overlord, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus, now control our lands.
This person talking is, I believe, Ebb, who's one of the characters you meet in the game who's a potential companion. I mean, it's absolutely the same voice actress as Ebb, but I think it's actually supposed to be Ebb herself talking when she's saying, like, our lands, because she's one of the rebels.
But our will is not yet extinguished. Not entirely. In the Valley of Vendrian's Well, those of us unwilling to bow to Kairos have banded together in defiance. Violating an oath of surrender from 2 years prior, we have staged a bloody uprising. murdering the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus garrison in a midnight assault.
I love this art so much. This is so cool, iconic looking. But a couple things. One, this guy needs to really get a refund on that helmet, I think. Because that's just not doing its job. Man, you'd have to throw a spear pretty fucking hard to go all the way through a guy's helmet and skull and the other side of his skull and the other side of his helmet. I mean, that's a hell of a throw right there. The other thing is, this is Vendrian's Well that it's talking about where this is happening is in Apex, which is one of the realms we went to in the Conquest. This piece, that surrender from 2 years prior that they're talking about, that's the surrender that I brokered.
With their main forces spread across the tiers, the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus redeploy to Vendrian's Well to crush the resistance. But months pass with no definitive battle. As disagreement and discord paralyze the Archons, we bide our time and wait for our message of insurrection to spread across the tiers.
And that's the only downside to Kairos' forces, is that they can't get along, they can't work together, and they're constantly actually working at cross purposes. You get the impression that Kairos would have easily conquered everything really quickly, with all the power that Kairos has, if it weren't for the fact that Kairos' minions are all a bunch of, you know, typical evil minions that don't know how to work together and have all the infighting between the Archons and stuff.
The Overlord is not amused, and Kairos has one message for the Archons: crush the Oathbreakers or die. Kairos backs this threat with an edict, a magical commandment that can slay all in the valley should the order be ignored. The honor of proclaiming this edict fell to you. Sent across the mountains to Vendrian's Well, you carry the Overlord's edict to read before the Archons.
We've read edicts before. We're an edict reader. Not to be confused with an e-reader. So this reminds me of Sauron from the... Maybe that's all... Maybe Kairos is just a giant eye at the top of a tower. That's the symbol of Kairos, though. Big glowing symbol on top of a tower. Of course, that's a symbol of the Scarlet Chorus, and that's the symbol of the disfavored. And no, I don't know why they're called the disfavored. That's the symbol of the Vendrian Guard, who are the defenders, you know, the people of Apex.
As you finally make your way through the winding mountain passes into the valley, the ground trembles, and Kairos' magic seals the way behind you.
This is the part where it stops making sense to me. Because if it's Ebb talking, and she's talking about our land and our this and that, and then all of a sudden she's narrating what happens to you. Wait a minute, what? Suddenly, we just changed from a narrator who's a character in the story talking to a sudden omniscient outside the story narrator. That's the part I don't get.
You are trapped in Vendrian's Well, with Kairos' armies and the Oathbreakers. The only way to survive is to fulfill the terms of the Overlord's edict, in any way that you can.
So this edict is going to kill everyone in the whole valley, including myself, including all of my allies, if the terms are not fulfilled within a certain amount of time. That statue is no joke, though. Made by their Seraphina, I presume. We've been expecting you. Using your Paradox account, you receive Sanguine Scroll. For using your Paradox account, you received Rot and Ruin. Yay. Received some stuff for using some stuff. New quest, The Conqueror's Will. Alright, well, we finally made it into the game itself. We're going to save right out the gate. And... if you're watching the stream, I am not done playing. I'm going to continue. Just need to end my episode for YouTube. That is going to do it for this one. So thank you for watching. This has been Josiah Plays Tyranny.